welcome back to Shreology, my beautiful people. If you're new here, this is the corner of the internet where we unpack love, power, patriarchy, and the stories that women were never supposed to question. So today I want to start with the question itself. What if I told you that some of the most powerful men in the history did the most dramatic things in the name of love for women? Kings broke churches, empires changed laws, wars were fought, all because men loved a woman. Sounds so romantic, right? But here's the part nobody tells you. Many of those same women were later imprisoned, executed, betrayed, or erased by the very men who once claimed they loved them. So, today we are going to talk about a very uncomfortable pattern in history, a pattern where men passionately pursue powerful women only to punish them once those women become too strong, too visible, or too influential for them. And most importantly, we are going to talk about why women keep romanticizing this pattern even today. Because this isn't just history, this is something many women experience inside modern relationships and marriages. Let's start with one of the famous stories, the king who broke a church for love. There was once a king who wanted a woman so badly that he literally changed the religion of his entire country. That king was Henry VIII of England, and the woman was Anne Boleyn. Henry pursued Anne for 7 years. 7 years of letters, 7 years of obsession. Anne refused to be his mistress. She wanted marriage. And Henry wanted her so badly that when the Catholic Church refused to annul his first marriage, he broke away from the Catholic Church entirely. This act triggered what we now know as the English Reformation. Imagine that a king changed religious structure of an entire nation for one woman. From the outside, this sounds like the ultimate love story. A man defying the world for the woman he loves. But here's what happens next. Only 3 years after their marriage, Anne was arrested, accused of adultery, accused of treason, and executed. Most historians today believe that the accusations were fabricated. Why? Because Anne was not a quiet queen. She was politically intelligent, she had opinions, she influenced decisions, and the same woman Henry had chosen for 7 years suddenly became too powerful to tolerate. So, the king, who had once rewritten religion to marry her, signed the order for her execution. Next up, the mother who made an emperor and was murdered by him. Now, let's go back to ancient Rome. Agrippina the Younger was one of the most brilliant political strategists of the Roman Empire. She carefully navigated Roman power structures and eventually secured the throne for her son, Nero. When Nero first became the emperor, he was heavily dependent on his mother. Agrippina attended political meetings, she advised him, she had enormous influence. But power has a strange effect on insecure men. The moment Nero began feeling overshadowed by his own mother, he started plotting her death. First, he tried prisoning her, then, he designed something bizarre, a collapsing boat that was meant to sink and drown her. Agrippina survived, so eventually Nero sent soldiers to assassinate her, according to Roman historians. When the soldiers came to kill her, she pointed at her womb and said, "Strike here." The womb that had produced the emperor, the son she had helped crown, killed her. Next up, the teenage girl who won a war then was burnt alive. Now let's talk about a girl, Joan of Arc. She was only 17 years old when she began leading French troops during the Hundred Years' War. She inspired soldiers, she helped secure military victories, she made it possible for Charles VII to be crowned the King of France. A teenage girl helped restore a king. Think about that. But once the political situation stabilized, John became inconvenient. She was captured, put on trial, and the same political system she had helped save did nothing to help her rescue. She was burnt alive at the stake at just 19 years of age. Years later, the church admitted that the trial had been unjust, but by then it was centuries too late. Now, next up, we have Cleopatra, the woman history tried to humiliate. Now let's talk about her. Most people know her through movies, a seductive queen who manipulated powerful men, but Cleopatra was actually one of the most educated rulers of the ancient world. She spoke multiple languages, she studied philosophy and politics, she governed Egypt during one of the most complex political periods of Mediterranean history. She formed alliances with Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony. But when Rome defeated Antony, Cleopatra had to be turned into a villain. Roman propaganda painted her as a dangerous seductress, not a strategist, not a ruler, but a manipulative woman who controlled men. History didn't just defeat Cleopatra politically, it humiliated her narratively. Next up, we have Wu Zetian, the woman who ruled an empire. In China, there was a woman named Wu Zetian. She began as a concubine, but her intelligence and political ability eventually made her the ruler of China, the only woman in Chinese history to become the emperor. But male historians spent centuries trying to destroy her reputation. They described her as cruel, manipulative, immoral. Why? Because a woman successfully ruling an empire made people uncomfortable. Even when women win, history often tries to punish them afterwards. Now, if you look closely at these stories, they follow a disturbing pattern. First, a powerful man becomes fascinated by a strong woman, then he elevates her, then her influence grows, which makes him feel threatened, and suddenly the woman he once admired becomes dangerous. And then she is eliminated, sometimes physically, sometimes politically, and at times through the way history remembers her. Now, this is where the conversation becomes uncomfortable because this isn't just about history, this is about women and men are raised to understand love. Girls are raised hearing stories about sacrifice, to adjust, to nurture, to hold the relationship together. You forgive, you give, love becomes synonymous with self sacrifice for women. Meanwhile, boys or men, they are raised with a completely different script. Protect yourself, build your part, prioritize your goal, value your independence. So when these two people enter relationships, one person is prepared to give themselves away and the other is completely prepared to protect themselves first. Now, that imbalance is what creates many of the dynamics we see in marriages today. Now, women are constantly told that love requires sacrifice, but look carefully at most marriages. Who changes their surname? Who moves cities? Who adjusts to new families? Who sacrifices their career? Who manages emotional labor? Who is expected to maintain peace? In most cases, the answer is always a woman. And the sacrifice is often glorified in the name of love. But sacrifice without mutual respect becomes exploitation. Love should never require you to disappear. Here are some things that every woman should practice themselves. Maintain financial independence. Never surrender your ability to survive without someone. Dependence is the oldest tool of control. Also, if somebody has the authority to feed you, know that they also have the authority to starve you. Next up, protect your identity, your interests, your ambitions, friendships, and personality must exist outside those relationships. You are not somebody's extension. Now, thirdly, watch how men react to your strength. A man who truly loves you will never feel threatened by your intelligence or success. If your growth makes him uncomfortable, that is not love, that's insecurity. Fourthly, observe how he uses power. Does he want partnership or control? Disguised as care, there's a difference. Now, fifth, never romanticize suffering. If love constantly hurts, confuses, or dismisses or exhausts you, that is not love, that is conditioning. History has given us thousands of love stories, but many of them are not really about love. They are about power and untold wounds. Stop confusing sacrifice with love. These patterns are going to continue. Real love does not silence you, and real love certainly does not punish you for being powerful. If anything, real love makes sure your power survives. Well, thank you so much for watching this entire video. If this conversation makes you think, reflect, or question something you were taught about love, do like this video because it really helps me work more on it. Also, comment below your thoughts on this. Do you think history teaches us something about modern relationships? Or do you think these stories are just misunderstood? I genuinely would love to hear your perspectives, and if you know another woman who needs to hear this conversation, make sure it's shared with her. And of course, if you enjoyed these deep dives into history, relationships, and social conditioning around women, do not forget to subscribe to Shreology, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.